shelters, spend more time in shelters, and find permanent housing than other groups. And I've seen that in Miami. Like that person, Hispanic person going to the shelter, the black person is there longer. Okay, the Hispanic guy gets his place a little bit quicker. Okay, so we're wondering, I'm just putting this appeal out for you guys in local cabs and local shelters. If you know of any information like that shows that disparity, please let us know.
So I just have a question, and I want to question the African American Hispanic difference. Now we already know race plays a part in both of the issues. So why do you think that the Hispanic is leaving the shelter faster than? And I know race has something to do with it, but is it personal initiative? Is this explain it to me?
I believe this is a unique thing in Miami. I would say nationwide it'd be black versus white. In Miami, it's black versus white Hispanic. Okay, because Miami has a very serious, deep-seated racial issue. Where we're dominated by certain Hispanic groups that actively discriminate against people of color. So they find it much easier. They'll rent to a Spanish-speaking person long before they'll rent to an English-speaking black person.
You have to take into account that Miami is like further down south of the United States, and most of the Hispanic countries are right around Miami. Central America, South America, the Caribbean, and most of them are Hispanic. So whenever anybody wants to come to the United States, they come to Miami. And so the Hispanic population is becoming very large, a very large population of Hispanics. So when you go to a government office, or you have a Spanish-speaking individual there who is helping those who speak Spanish. So therefore they get whatever they need. Services fast. The services fast. That's more or less how it is.
And it's just to add to that as well, Latin America, South America have enslaved the same racism that exists here exists there. There's all sorts of colorism around Latin America too.
So I'm with this lady and as a suburb of Chicago, and I'm volunteer with her. I came up with a plan about funding, affordable housing funding for like mixed people in color. Because in Chicago it's straight racism towards homelessness. They got all the buildings closed down. They don't want people in their neighborhood. They trying to close down shelters. They trying to keep people out. So I came with this affordable housing fund for City Hall that every building they tear down, affordable housing to get some of the funds. Every house they build, affordable housing to get some of that funds. Every brick that they build or a sidewalk that they fix, affordable housing to get some of that funds. Because when I was in Rockford and I was homeless, it was this place I was in. And what they did was, it was a non-profit organization, but they had their own buildings. You know what I'm saying? They had their own buildings, so when people was ready enough, they could go to stay in their buildings. And it wasn't like, Rockford is a bad city too, just like anybody else city. But they had their own buildings for like recovery, people who live in affordable housing. They had their own. And they drop-in center was doing laundry, feeding people, came Spanish men, and washing clothes for the homeless. So that's what we was basically like thinking about trying to get together, because a lot of people don't want the homeless around. Some way, some money got to come from somewhere to open some of these buildings, rebuild, remodel some of these buildings, because people don't want to go west. People definitely don't want to go south. It's just, and everybody want to come north, but that's not actually the case, because everybody can't come north.
Just to piggyback off of yours, I noticed that even in Massachusetts and Worcester, where the racism on homelessness, they're kicking people out of the City Hall Park, Ohio City Hall Park, for laying down on the beds, falling asleep. If you're falling asleep, you're getting kicked out. You got to go somewhere else. They're knocking down old like parking garages where homeless used to stay. Like I'll go around and take pictures, and they knocked down the thing. It was empty, sat there for years. All of a sudden, a homeless was sleeping in that garage within not even a year. Not even a year, they knocked it all down. Anywhere, a skate park where the homeless were sleeping, they took that out. So when I go to the city hall and I'm at that meeting and I'm voicing my opinions in regards to that because that's not fair. Why everything that they have to even keep water off them in the rain, or even just the slightest bit of wind from the cold, why are you knocking it all down? I don't get it. To build what? Nothing. It's an empty lot. Like I don't understand it.
And the criminalization issues
Yeah.
are
Right.
very common in
Yeah.
local,
Important.
and you're seeing, even in spite of court cases that have found a lot of this to be unconstitutional,
Yeah.
we're still seeing people prohibiting food distribution, prohibiting sit-lie. You can't, have stuff. It's just, and then people sweep through.
Or even restaurants that are throwing away their food instead of giving it to the homeless that are outside their building.
Right. Because they get sued because then if you should get sick, it's not like delivered in a sanitary environment.
Right.
So if
That's
they
already
send
in
it
the
out,
garbage where there's a lot
Right.
of
But
microorganisms.
why throw it in the garbage? Why not just hand it out to everybody outside?
they're legally prohibited from doing so most cases.
In most cases.
Yeah.
So in other words, from the top, they're saying you cannot hand this out
Correct.
no more.
Right.
So now it goes in the trash. So now the homeless are going in the dumpster
Right.
to get the food.
Right.
And exposing themselves to all kind of microorganisms.
Exactly.
So one of the things that one of the situations that we're faced with in the city of Newark, New Jersey, because we have a major hub for public transportation, Amtrak, all of the buses, and the airport. And so the Division of Homeland Security came to our homeless coalition and was telling us we have to divert the homeless from these areas because now it's becoming a homeland security issue. So the mayor says, well, what we need to do, because in most cities, the the transportation, Penn Station, Union Station, are where the homeless gather. And so we were given a directive to divert the homeless from Penn Stations. And one of the things we tried to do was find other sites to feed, because most of them come down there to feed. And what was curious to me is to find out that a lot of homeless don't want to leave these areas because, if you can make $70 a day by panhandling and you're at the airport and they buy you a big, huge meal and you're sitting there, you don't want to leave that. So I think, and this is my opinion, I think that the paradigm should shift from diverting the homeless to informing people and I know it's a Good Samaritan Act and all of that stuff, to stop giving people the money at these major places, because at some point in time, there's going to be a catastrophe. The police, the Newark Police Department and the FBI came to one of our meetings and they had evidence where some type of radical had approached a homeless person to walk around with some I don't know if it was a bomb or chemicals or whatever. They wouldn't disclose only but so much. And so now the homeless are being targeted to do bad things. So we have to have some type of initiative in place where, homeless people need to be informed. I mean, just like they're saying don't leave packages around, because, they're really targeting the homeless. They'll give them $5,000 to carry a bag and just sit it on the side. We have proof of that. And of course they'll do that. We have proof of that. So I think the paradigm needs to shift from, getting the homeless away to more educating the homeless about how vulnerable you are to all these radical and all these other different groups. And that's what we're being faced with in the city of Newark.
They're looking at you like you don't care, so why do I?
Right.
You don't care about what my health is. You don't care if I eat every day. You don't care if I lay my head down. You go home to your apartment and then I'm still here.
But it's just the worth of the homeless that so many other people, which we don't think they're worthless, but so many other, when you got terrorists and radicals approaching them saying, look, man, I can set you up with something real nice. All you have to do is just take this bag and just sit it down, and they know they're wrong. So, I mean, that has to be some type of initiative toward education
I agree. I think I'm hearing, sounds like a lot of you are dealing with this issue of criminalization. It looks different in each of your communities. You can see on our sheet that one of the coalitions we're in is Housing Not Handcuffs. It's
Number 12.
number 12, and the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty does a lot of work on criminalization. They have resources. So as you guys are sharing, I'm wanting to make sure that you have access to their materials and their resources and are kind of in tune with the work they're doing.
We'll include, so in the follow-up email, we'll include a link to their website.
Yep.
Some
Yeah,
more
we can include a
information
link to the
about that.
website. And Catherine and me and Barbara are usually on. Is Catherine?
No, she stepped out.
We're usually on those Housing Not Handcuffs calls, and we're hearing what they're doing in local communities, and that's an open community that any of y'all can be a part of.
And there's a listserv.
There's an email listserv, and people kind of sometimes there's a lot of attorneys working on these criminalization issues that will send out, we're seeing this, and they're doing this downtown, what have you seen? It's a good community, and as you're talking, I'm thinking I want to make sure all of you are involved and connected with that.
And then sometimes too, they will put out an email basically saying, "Oh, there's been a court win, like some appeals court found, or accomplishments, or any kind of judicial decisions that come down relevant to."
So have you had a? Go ahead.
I had the opportunity to come to DC with the low income with the lawyer group, the National Center for, and it was a great dialogue, and we was at the law center at Hogan and Lavelle, beautiful building, and major law firms, and we was talking about all of these issues we're talking about now, how to approach it, and was talking about how many cases they have won, and ruling they give, and that was a judge. She's from Michigan. I think she is from Michigan, but she was one of the speakers talking about the criminal side, how you're going to handle that situation. And then I think there was a police officer or some elite law enforcement officer. He was speaking at that conference. So that's definitely a good thing. Housing Not Handcuffed piece, I'm using that kind of in New Orleans a little bit, because well, we have a good relationship with our municipal courts, so that if people get arrested, and all they got to do is tell them that they're homeless, and they will call somebody from the coalition and then roll them out. But a lot of times, the problem I have is that if I ask a person in the shelter, I go to court, the judge say, "How many you want out the box?" And I go ask them one simple question: "Will you spend nights in the shelter or no?" And so I just turn around and tell the judge, "I'm not taking nobody today." So, but then he might roll them out. So then if they come to my office, then I would help them. But people, we just got to utilize resources and stay on top of the game. And I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to get the job.
So I realize I'm new to this, and I don't have the experience a lot of you have, and so I'm just learning how to get more involved. But I have a question. Like in Portland, I know it's considered camping, at least you lay down the bench, and there's no camping in the parks. But I also know that people can like get permits to have access to the whole, like if you want to have a block party, you can have permits to have an event using the park. Why can't we get permits and then allow the homeless to camp at parks at nighttime when they're gone in the morning? With working with different ones.
Yes,
We
yeah.
do have that. Some are being more allowing for in Miami, because we have this federal consent decree that prohibited the police from evicting you from the park after hours if you're homeless. If there's no shelter available, police couldn't do that. in Miami, because we have this federal consent decree that was in effect for 20 years. But just 20 miles up the street in Fort Lauderdale, they could kick you out. So it all depends on what locality that you're in and what the current political climate is. And I can tell you, though, in the cities like San Francisco, they're really getting cracking down hard on homelessness all over the United States. So it's
I think that's a good example of how differing the criminalization issues are locally. And I know we might want to talk about immigration and consumer involvement and story sharing a little bit. I just want to do a little bit of a time check because we can really get, once we start talking about things in our localities, we can just keep going all day. So
No, good
yeah,
point. Okay.
okay.
So next topic.
Next topic. Is that all right if we?
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
I just want to say you don't need no experience. You are the experience. We glad to have you here. Don't think we bigger than that because we are not. We just here with the same experience that you have. So don't worry.
So you may have noticed, but immigration is a thing that the administration has really gotten deep on in terms of restricting the number, the type, the origin of people who are coming to the United States or have approval to stay here. There's been a whole raft of these things in the last couple of years, and it's increasingly been hard not to do something. Immigration is typically not our issue. There's a lot of organizations where it is their issue, and we've been working with them. But when the public and I think what the straw was for us was the public charge. So you may have heard a lot about this, but this is as someone is applying for a visa or to get a green card, either to enter the United States or to become a legal permanent resident, you have to go through an assessment. And part of that assessment is to determine whether you would be a public charge, meaning would you become a liability for the country to accept. And right now, the way that it was prior to the Trump administration is that if you had used any cash benefits like SSI or TANF or something like that, that would count very heavily against your application. But it did not previously apply to non-cash benefits like Medicaid, public housing, Section 8, food stamps, things like that. The Trump administration has changed this application to include those services. So now anybody who wants to get a green card or what have you, if you have used any of these programs, that will count very heavily against your application to either come to the country or stay here. So that was one of the pieces. You can see we did a comment on the public charge proposal up here under our documents. And then the other piece that I think was really a trip line for us, this first bullet or comments on HUD mixed status proposal. So in addition to the public charge changes, they're also making changes in who or which families get housing assistance. So for example, right now there's about 25,000 families who are in either public housing or Section 8 voucher where you have someone in the family is not a U.S. citizen. So typically it's U.S. citizen child and maybe mom and or dad who's not documented. Or it may be U.S. citizen mom and kid and dad is not documented, something like that. So what's called mixed status. The Trump administration has proposed that unless the entire family is a U.S. citizen, no one in that family can get housing assistance. So what we so this has been so the change then will mean that 25,000 families will lose their housing assistance unless they kick out the family member who is not a U.S. citizen. The parents typically break up the family. So you either break up the family or and some of the family keeps their housing, or you don't break up the family, the entire family loses the housing. This is the completely untenable situations that are coming to about 25,000 families if this rule should be finalized. So these are the kinds of rules that have really just, I think, galvanized us to say we have to take a stand in the homeless community in particular and take a look at what's happening for people without homes and without documentation. I feel like that's got to be an additional strike against somebody. And what we're starting to hear from different clinicians and programs is we're starting to see our non-citizen patients more reluctant to sign up for Medicaid, or they've been dropping their Medicaid coverage, or they don't want to sign up for food stamps,
Or they don't
want
even
their
come to the
kid,
clinic.
or they don't come to the clinic because
Right.
they're worried about ICE being there or being turned over, or thinking that coming to the clinic will count against their application. There's a lot of misinformation. That's obviously the point. They want to create chaos. They want to create a chilling effect and make this country very unpleasant to be here or come. I think in the homeless community, we know that when the government wants to make it unpleasant, they have a lot of ways to do that. And so now we're just seeing this extended to this other group of folks. But when it starts interfering with people's access to our clinics, to health care, to their willingness to sign even their kids up for food assistance and all of that, that ain't right. And so we wanted to start putting more of a voice to this. And Regina has been working with some folks on the Hill who are obviously involved in some of this and pushing back. And we want to get our stories into that chain. And so one of the things we'd like to do is talk about how we can leverage your stories or people that may be at your programs who are in this situation. Maybe trauma has obviously been a big issue, and what we're seeing also is people coming into clinics who have come across the border and had a hellacious time of it, obviously traumatic. And so we're showing up, they've got the trauma from from their home country that prompted them to leave to begin with, the trauma of the journey to get here, the trauma of crossing the border and possibly being separated from your family and locked up, and the trauma of not knowing what's going to happen to you, in addition to everything else going on, and people are rolling into our clinics really, really sick.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, a story we need to tell.
Yeah. I think